Hi, I'm Judy Copenbarger. Welcome. Have you ever wondered how you could be financially free? Have you considered what it might be like for those people who are financially stable? What that would feel like? Well, you're in the right place, because next we're going to be discussing how you can achieve financial stability. Stay tuned. So you want to be stable. You want to be successful. You want to achieve financial stability. What does that look like? I think after 35, 40 years, law school, financial school, being licensed in every this, that, and the other, financial advisory, financial planning, financial fiduciary services, I've learned a little bit about what people want when they're thinking about financial stability. And I'd like to share that with you and some ideas that might help you get there and have the confidence to move forward and achieve all the goals that you've dreamed of. So let's talk about the two big areas where people make the most mistakes when it comes to financial stability. The first mistake that many people make when they're trying to achieve financial stability is they're reactive rather than proactive. And what I mean by that is they're waiting for something to happen to them or around them before they take action. And what I would encourage you to do is always be moving forward. Always know where you're going, always know where you're headed, and be proactive rather than reactive. So let's put a microscope on that idea and how you can actually have an impact on your finances by doing a few simple things. The first area that many people make mistakes in is with their cash reserves and their cash flows. So often I'll be working with someone who achieves their income through commissions, maybe a realtor, for example. You know, they sell a house and all of a sudden they get thousands of dollars, and then nothing happens for a few weeks or a few months sometimes, and then they sell another house and they get lots of thousands of dollars. Well, how do you even out the ride? That's really all about cash flows and holding appropriate cash reserves. Now, many of us had this lesson in 2020 that we're just coming out of. The people that weathered well this past year during the pandemic are the businesses that had capital, they had cash available. So people that had enough savings because they always put away for the rainy day, and it came, didn't it? For a lot of us, we needed those savings. For businesses that had a line of credit established, or they had appropriate capital in their reserves to get through the storm, to keep their employees going, to keep manufacturing going, to do that big pivot that we talk about and create new lines of business that sustain them through that storm. Having cash is powerful. So you always want to have some cash, not too much, but just enough to weather a storm like we just had. Another area that you could really focus on when we're looking at the 5 pillars of finance is the growth assets. So by growth assets, I mean any business interest that you have, any real estate interest that you have, including the mortgages and the leveraging, and then the traditional investments that we think of when you're thinking about assets and your wealth. And that would be your stock and bond portfolios, your 401k at work, your IRA accounts, and all of those wealth-generating accounts that you have that are growing every day, whether you're looking or not. So the idea with these growth accounts is to make sure that they're always optimized. So the growth is happening the way it should, but you're minimized in the way that you pay taxes, and you're minimized in the way that you pay fees. A common mistake that many people make without even knowing it is that they pay too many fees. And the reason they don't know it is there's no transparency. This is one part of the financial landscape that you want to be aware of. Most people have no idea exactly what kind of fees they're actually paying. There are layers of fees in many investments, and you think about the traditional stock bond portfolios, managed money, working with a broker-dealer, having a financial planner, a wealth manager, things like that. There are so many fees that you're paying you don't even know. So you really want to learn what those are. And if you're in a place where there is that transparency, or if you're working with a fiduciary, which by law has to be transparent and always put your best interest first, that would be a great way to start, by the way. You want to know what the fees are, because if you minimize the fees and the taxes, you optimize the allocation so that it's growing well, this pillar of finance will be solid for you. Now, I mentioned the 5 pillars of finance, and we've covered a couple of them. One is the cash reserves and cash flows. The second one is the investments or the wealth assets. The third pillar of finance is not necessarily about growth, but it impacts your growth, and that's the pillar of taxation. And there are hundreds of taxes that probably apply to you. Many you're unaware of, but you're paying them. Obviously, you're aware of the income tax, the tax on the business if you own a business, tax on your property, things like that. Sales tax, you pay every time you buy anything pretty much. But there are all these taxes that impact you. If you can minimize those taxes as well as the fees that we just discussed, you're going to be on your way. Taxation is that third pillar. The 2 final pillars have to do with protection. And these are the pillars of legal and the pillars of insurances. So there are people that find themselves being insurance poor. And what I mean by that is there's so many kinds of insurances in your life. Some might apply and some might not. But you want to make sure if you need insurance at all, you have the right kind, the right amount of coverage, you have the right premium, and the right timing. Many people make mistakes in this area. And again, sometimes it's because the people that are informing them are also on the other side of the transaction. The information's coming from someone who wants you to have a high premium and buy more insurance because they're selling it, and that's how they get paid. And this doesn't mean insurance agents are bad or that the insurance industry is broken. It just means you need to be aware of exactly what you're paying for the services that you're having provided for you. So think about the kind of insurances you actually need in your life. Find a professional, a financial strategic planner, or a fiduciary that can help you know exactly how much insurance you need, what kind is right for you, and what's going to be the best for your family or for your business. So the final of our 5 pillars is legal. And there are a couple of aspects that I just want to bring to your attention as you're thinking about creating that financial stability in your life. The first one is entities. So if you have a business, you want to have the right entity for you. You want to make sure it's appropriate for the business you have, the scope of that business, the breadth of that business, and the business cycle that you're in. Obviously, a startup business will be different from a business that's doing $10 million a year in year 7. So you want to have the right entity. Should it be a DBA? Should it be a sole proprietorship? Should it be an S corporation or a C corporation? And what's the difference anyway? Should it be an LLC or an LLP or some kind of a professional organization? Those are very important questions to ask, and you want to make sure you have the right answers every time. The other aspect of legal I want to bring to your attention applies to almost all of us, and it has to do with the side of estate planning. So estate planning involves things like having a will. If you die, who gets it? Under what circumstances do they get what you've created and accumulated? A trust. Many people will use a trust or some type of a trust to avoid the court system, the probate system, when there's a death or an incapacity. Maybe there's a healthcare document. You want to make sure that in your final days, or if something happened to you, that you're going to get the kind of care that you would express to your caregivers if you were able. But we find ourselves in a position where you're not able. Who do you want making those decisions for you? What decisions do you want them to make? All the way down to the details of, do you want your family to be able to authorize an autopsy if they want to know what happened? How about donation of your organs? And you know, the largest organ in your body is your skin. Some people say, well, they wouldn't want my eyes. They wouldn't want my liver. They wouldn't want my brain. But there are so many uses for human skin to help burn victims and other people with with serious issues. So those are the kind of things that you would think about and detail in healthcare power of attorney, directive to physician documents. And then contracts. If you're in a business, you want to make sure you have solid contracts. They don't have to be convoluted or long or hard, but you want to make sure that your business is protected, your family is protected, and if there's any asset protection you need for your family from your business, that's all put in place. And this is the category. It's the legal documents, the legal contracts that you put in place that do these things for you. So the insurances and legal areas of your financial life are two of those areas that can really help you avoid disruption. Imagine if you create all this wealth and then you had that car accident or you had that fire. Oops, underinsured, there it goes. Usually we're going to see a tort liability issue where you hurt someone, there's been an accident, and now they're going to say, I like your house. I like your IRA. I like all those stocks and bonds you've been accumulating. So protect yourself. Avoid disruption. Don't forget to be proactive, not reactive, and you're going to be well on your way to achieving financial stability. I'm glad you were with us today. Don't forget to subscribe. Gently press that button. Ring the bell, and that bell is going to make sure you get notified every time we put out a new great video for you. Share this information with your friends. You know they want to be financially stable too. Have a wonderful day. I'm Judy Copenbarger. God bless.